world is on fire, and the United States should be having a much-needed election year debate about the country's foreign policy. Instead, both of the presumed candidates are making the election personal.
I want you to imagine the future nightmare if Trump's back in office.
If we don't win, I think our country is finished.
History will record two dates as defining the final year of President Biden's first term. October 7, 2023, the day Hamas entered Israel and butchered 1,200 people, and January 29, when an Iran-allied militia killed 3 U.S. service members at Tower 22 in Jordan. The first event was an Israeli intelligence failure. The second was also a failure of intelligence, though not in the military sense. The January 29 deaths followed more than 150 attacks on U.S. forces in the region. The deaths of those U.S. service members wasn't predictable. It was inevitable.
The way to get into a war is the hesitant half measures that Joe Biden has implemented over the last 3 years.
In the wake of several U.S. counterstrikes against Islamic militias, the Biden National Security Team has pursued more of the only strategy it believes in: diplomacy.
Very good to see you. Welcome back.
Which means having conversations.
We are actively pursuing the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with real security guarantees for Israel.
Running alongside this mess are the dysfunctional U.S. political parties that comprise Congress that has so far failed to pass funding support for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan.
Two-thirds not being in the affirmative, the rules are not suspended, and the bill is not passed.
There is a limit to the amount of global risk that the U.S. can incur without suffering consequences. Put plainly, a big war.
We have tried to be very deliberate in this, in using the absolute minimum amount of effort and force to try to stop some of these attacks on ourselves.
While Team Biden understandably wants to avoid war, the president can't go anywhere in the U.S. without being taunted by pro-Palestinian agitators.
Genocide Joel's got to go!
Unopposed, the anti-Semitic vote is on the brink of becoming part of the Democratic coalition.
You are absolutely not welcome in Michigan.
We've heard a lot recently about the importance of deterrence, but less examined is whether our commitment to deterrence will match the ideological forces driving the U.S.'s three primary adversaries: Iran, Russia, and China. None of these countries or their proxies are a conventional opponent. Not on the propaganda front.
This Nazi occupation has not stopped from committing the ugliest crimes and massacres at the expense of unarmed civilians, mostly women, children, and the elderly.
Nor, as the Biden National Security Team believes, to incentives offered via diplomatic overtures to reduce their aggressive behavior.
I'm not going to get into what's on the table and off the table when it comes to the American response.
Rather, all three, Iran, Russia, and China, have become messianic political movements. Political messianism has three characteristics. It is relentless in pursuit of its goals, outward moving, and virtually unappeasable. We read daily about Iran's proxies in the Middle East, but that bland word undervalues the fanatical energy driving Iran's goals.
اگر یک حکومتی یک نظامی در دنیا به وجود بیاد که منطق لیبرال دموکراسی رو رد کنه و با یک منطق واقعی به مردم این منطق لیبرال دموکراسی رو ابطال میکنه. این جمهوری اسلامیه.
Like Iran's supreme leader, Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping are seeking the restoration of centuries-old cross-border empires as well. At the 2021 centennial of the Chinese Communist Party, Mr. Xi described what he called China's national rejuvenation as a historical inevitability, while Mr. Putin has likened his invasion of Ukraine to Peter the Great's 18th century expansion into northern Europe. These are enemies looking not only for regional dominance, but active obeisance to their rule. In the case of Iran and Russia, that means literally erasing opponents, such as Ukraine and Israel.
We kiss the foreheads and arms of the smart and wise planners. We are proud of them.
Today, elements in both the Democratic and Republican parties want to believe that the water's edge somehow protects the United States. Refusing to ignore such realities was the point of Ronald Reagan's decision to raise U.S. defense capacity to the level of an unmistakable deterrent.
Peace is made by the fact of strength, economic, military, and strategic. Peace is lost when such strength disappears, or just as bad, is seen by an adversary as disappearing.
Iran isn't backing down to the U.S.'s retaliatory bombing of its proxies because it knows the Biden Democrats' long-term commitments lie with domestic spending, not rebuilding military infrastructure. Mr. Trump, an off-and-on public admirer of Mrs. Putin and Xi, seems to think the answer to their messianism is him talking to them, just guy to guy. On the available evidence, neither candidate looks up to the task of stopping them.
We must build peace upon strength. There is no other way.